Okay, so as promised, going to go through the England team that I would have selected. A little bit of a curveball. Borthwick decided he was going to release the team early, again, the same as he did for Japan, the Stevie B special. So instead of just showing the team that I would pick and going through each position, we're going to compare the two squads. So without further ado, let's get into this. So first, going through what Steve Borthwick has selected for this team. Going up against the first test against New Zealand. Joe Marler, Jamie George, Will Stuart, Maro, Itoje, George Martin, Chandler, Cunningham-South, Sam Underhill, Ben, Earl. I don't know why I stumbled over that. I almost said Sam Earl and Ben Underhill. Alex Mitchell, Marcus Smith, Tommy Freeman, Ollie Lawrence, Henry Slade, Immanuel, Feyi-Waboso, Furbank on the bench, Theo, Dan, Finn Baxter, Dan Coles, Alex Coles, Tom Curry, Ben Spencer, Finn Smith, and Ollie Sleightholme. So, a bit different to the side I would have selected. However, there are some similarities. Further ado, I'm just going to put up my team on the right next to it. Joe Marler and Jamie George, yes, same selections, 3. Will Stuart has been picked here by Borthwick instead of Dan Cole, who I would have gone with. Dan Cole, I think, is the best option that we have at tired at the moment. He's obviously getting on in years. Will Stuart, I feel like he's still got some development. I especially saw it in the Italy game in the Six Nations. He was just out of position in places where the defence could break through and make breaks through England's defence. I've seen it in multiple games. You know, a friend of mine, we'll call him Slate Daddy. He made the comment in one of my group chats basically saying, Will Stuart must be on fire in training, because I don't feel like he's put in the England performances to start in this game. But he's been given the nod at tight head, and Dan Cole is on the bench. And we'll talk about the replacements at prop when we get to that. But that was one of the major differences that I saw. Wouldn't have picked Will Stuart. Will be interesting to see how he does. He's been thrown into the fire a little bit here with his selection, which is fine. We'll see. Sink or swim, see what happens. Itoje Martin, same as me. This second row partnership is really, really good. Itoje is maybe getting on there a little bit. He's still very, very good. He's not, I don't think, the peak form that we saw about 4 or 5 years ago, but he is very, very good. And George Martin's obviously the up-and-comer. Ollie Chesham's obviously injured at the moment. My selection would be for Chesham over Itoje, but he's obviously injured. So that's why we have the same selections. Cunningham-South, Underhill, and Earl. I mean, all 3 of these guys, I think they've really put a stamp on them being the standout players in that position. Chandler Cunningham-South's performance against Japan was fantastic. Great to see. It's what you wanted out of him coming into the international scene, and it's great to see someone who's so young come in for so few caps and hit the ground running like he has. So, huge challenge for those 3. Underhill as well, coming back to international form, playing fantastically for Japan, having an amazing season for Bath at open side, a true open side flanker that I feel like England have lacked in the last, well, God knows how long. And Ben Earl is obviously in that 8 shirt, and his running just gets better and better with every game, and he still has the jackling abilities of a 7. So no questions or qualms for that for me. Same for scrum half and fly half for me. And inside and outside centre, I would have picked exactly the same. As I said in my last video for Japan-England, it wasn't my last video, it was the last video on England. That position is Alex Mitchell's to lose. He's really the standout scrum half for England at the moment. Marcus Smith definitely earned that 10 shirt against Japan. He was magnificent. He probably gets the nod over Finn Smith for the start as well from an experience point of view. This is a really tough test to go to New Zealand and try and get the win in their home territory. Ollie Lawrence, Henry Slade, there's no reason not to select them. They've both been fantastic at club level and against Japan and during the Six Nations. I think Ollie Lawrence has had a huge step up in his performances internationally since during the World Cup and since. And wingers again and fullback, I would pick the same. So there's always the choice, I think, with England with 2 very distinctive world-class fullbacks between Furbank and Stuart, but they're such different styles. But I think Furbank is the better choice for this game in particular. So why is that? And I'll also link that into what am I seeing with this selection with England. I'm seeing a team that wants possession, that wants to counter-attack, that wants to be quick, that wants to spread the ball about. And I think that's the way you got to play against New Zealand. What we saw against South Africa in the World Cup, I don't think you can play that style of rugby against New Zealand. It rarely works. I think the only team that really gets away with it is South Africa, just because they can bully anybody in the world. And I think if you try and play a tight game against New Zealand, you can't keep it super tight, 0 mistakes for 90 minutes. And for the small amount of time that you don't manage to hold it tight and you don't make a mistake, they punish you. And then you go down 1 score and then 2 scores. And then you're already playing a play style that isn't exactly liberal with point scoring. And you end up just losing because you've played a conservative play style against a team that wants to play open. I think back to many, many years ago where we beat New Zealand at home at Twickenham and we played an expansive style of rugby. Hulkamania went wild with Manitou Alangi in that game, and it was because we played an exciting counter-style attacking rugby. I really think there's a few things that are going to be key for England to have a chance of winning. I think they need to play on the counter-attack. They need to make New Zealand uncomfortable with real quick-paced ball. The decision-making needs to be decisive. I think limit kicking for it other than when it makes sense, aka you're in your own half, or the 50-22 is on, or you're kicking for trying to get for a try, basically like keeping it in field and grubbering it to make it a competition for these fast and powerful wingers that you've got. The up and unders, I don't see this as a place for them. I don't want to be seeing the box kicks to nothing. If you're box kicking, I want at least 2 or 3 people going up for competing with the ball. Otherwise, you're kicking away possession to a team that will counter-attack and punish you for it. So, that's that. That's the starting 15, and it's also the ways I think that England can win. If you ask me for a prediction, I think New Zealand will win the first test, and then the second test, maybe things change. Let's go through the bench. So, in my bench... No, let's go through Borthwick's bench. So in Borthwick's bench, we've got Theo Dan, which I also agreed with. And then a really interesting selection here, which I didn't go for. And I'll explain why. But Finn Baxter has been an out-and-out... I mean, I want to say up-and-comer, but that feels like you're diminishing his performances for Quins. He has been such a performer for Quins this year at that loose head position at prop. I was really excited to see him included within the squad. I picked Bevan Rodd purely because of experience. With Marler on the pitch, who's obviously getting on in years, I think it would be very difficult to expect Marler to go for a full 80 minutes in this game. And for me, Bevan Rodd's more experienced. He had a good game against Japan. His scrummaging was great. And I think it might be a bit rough to throw Finn Baxter on for his first cap against New Zealand. However, he's gotten the nod at that position to come in as the replacement. I think that's really exciting for him. I think it's exciting for England. We've been crying out for young props to come forward and make a name for themselves. Finn Baxter's done that this year in the Premiership, and he now gets his chance to get his first cap playing from the bench. And in my opinion, will more than likely get it with Marler obviously getting on in years. I just picked Bevan Rodd as a safe pick. You know, shoot me. Going safe, not cool, danger, let's go. So yeah, I was the pussy. Borthwick's not. He's gone for Finn Baxter. I went for the safe pick. Dan Cole. So as I said, Dan Cole would have started for me. Will Stuart, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not sure about him. I would have picked Joe Hayes in this replacement tight head prop position. I'll explain why. So Joe Hayes is the tight head prop for Leicester Tigers. He plays behind Dan Cole, and when Dan Cole's obviously on international duty or he gets a break because he's a little bit on the older side, Joe Hayes has come in and he's been there for a good few years now at Leicester. And up until recently, I've worried about Leicester's tight head prop position when Dan Cole has retired. However, this year, watching Tigers week in, week out, Joe Hayes has actually much improved his game, like massively. His scrummaging has been fantastic. He rarely makes mistakes. He always gave away penalties in seasons before at really critical moments, which you could expect of a young player trying to find his feet in the game. I felt like he's played real mistake-free rugby for Leicester and he's got his scrummaging down. And I felt like this was maybe an opportunity to get him coming off the bench. But just because I would prefer him over Will Stuart. I think he's more informed than him. So that was an interesting selection for me. But hey-ho, I can see why Will Stewart's in there. He's had more starting experience. Kind of why I was thinking Bevan Robb would be more in the squad than Finn Baxter, but it's kind of, Borthwick kind of done the old switcheroo for me on terms of the loose head and the tight head props. This is too much prop talk, I'm sorry, but that's just who I am. Alex Coles, again, I would have that selection as well. Tom Curry, again, that selection on the bench. Ben Spencer, yes, this is someone I wanted to see on the bench as well. Harry Randall was on the bench, came on for the Japan game. Ben Spencer's been playing for Bath. He's had a fantastic season with Finn Russell at 10 at Bath this year. Really excited to see what he can do if he can come off the bench. I would also say as well that Ben Spencer's a great choice to have for Mitchell, especially because going for that, keeping the pace of the game high, keeping the intensity high. Ben Spencer's very good at that. But he also has the intangible skills that Alex Mitchell does in terms of kicking and stuff, even though that kind of goes against what I would want England to do in terms of kicking. But he can do it. So that's probably what Borthwick's looking for. Finn Smith, obviously at fly half position, obviously had a fantastic season, but it's also, there are no other fly halves to bring in. Not that I'm diminishing Finn Smith, very, very good fly half. But again, Marcus Smith starting over him. And Ollie Sleightholme has been brought in at the 23. I would have put Roebuck in there. Maybe Sleightholme is a bit more versatile. Maybe that's what the thinking is behind it. I was thinking put Roebuck in there. As I said, very, very solid squad. Really exciting about Finn Baxter being on the bench. And in general, I am excited. I still think England are going to lose, if I'm being 100% honest. But yeah, exciting game nonetheless. Hope you enjoy this game, and I'll see you at the other end of it.